Noel is a member of the EAC and heads up the Delaware County chapter of the Citizens Climate Lobby, and he's an owner of electric cars and solar panels. Oh.
Thank you very much, and I think I should put on my video as well. So thanks everyone for your interest today. Yeah, I'm a longtime owner of an electric car. In fact, my wife and I both drive electric now and power it with our solar panels, which is really exciting as well. And oops. So yeah, we saw that. So just a little bit of history on cars. If you were electric cars were actually came out before gasoline cars, and that's just kind of a little bit of a interesting tidbit for folks to realize. They think electric cars are rather new, and the gasoline vehicle is kind of the established, and it is. When electric cars first came out, they were somewhat limited in their range, and but they were easy to drive, easy to start. You would just go in and push a button just like you do today. And then in 1910, the Model T came out and solved a lot of the issues, you know, the range issues. It was harder to start, and it was difficult to change gears, and you had to put this toxic, flammable chemical into it. But it did in fact take off, and electric cars kind of sat around for a while until very recently. All right, so there's a big environmental motivation to why you would want to purchase an electric vehicle, and the transportation sector in the United States, or really globally, is about 28% of the greenhouse gas emissions that are emitted on an annual basis. And of that 28% transportation, light duty vehicles, the cars and trucks that we drive on a daily basis, accounts for 61% of that. So you can see, by making the choice to go to a low emitting vehicle like an electric vehicle, you can really be part of the solution for climate change and really just air pollution in general. So let me give you a little bit of a background on the electric vehicle landscape right now. What I'm going to talk about first is hybrid electric vehicles. There's two types. There's a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle and an extended range electric vehicle. And you can see a simplistic picture of each of the drivetrains there. But one of the things that jumps out is there's two drivetrains on each of them. But really, on the left one, that's the plug-in hybrid, kind of like a Prius Prime, or the plug-in Prius. There'll be a drivetrain for the electric component, and there'll be a drivetrain for the gasoline. So it runs a combustion engine, just like cars do. So really, it has both. So you've also then just kind of increased the number of failure points in the vehicle and maintenance points and what have you. The one on the right is what's called an extended range. This one really just does have one drivetrain, which is electric. It uses gasoline to produce more electricity that charges the battery that allows you to go. There's some advantages to this. It's a good transition car. It does allow you for long range. You can go to a gas station and refill it, or you can plug it in at a plug-in station. So you kind of have both of those options. For many drivers, it's a great option to provide 100% of your commute on electric, which is really a big deal. And then you still then have the peace of mind of knowing that you've got gasoline and you can always just fill that at a gas station. Disadvantages, it is more complex, as I noticed, and it still burns gasoline. So all electric vehicles, you can see here, the drivetrain is a little bit simpler. It only has the one. It has a battery and a motor. There's lots of options on that now. The Bolt is an option. Tesla, Nissan Leaf, these are examples of what that might look like. As far as performance, we're going to talk more about this. It's fine for almost all of your commutes without having to worry about plugging in. You do have to plan for longer trips, meaning city to city trips. When I say longer trips, and in the cold weather, this is a really important point. The range does decrease in cold weather, and it's just due to the battery technology. And so pros and cons of an electric versus non. Some pros, you've great accelerations, very quiet. very low operating costs in comparison to a gasoline vehicle. There is actually no, people ask me how long does it take to charge, and my answer is really it takes no time at all, because I plug it in when I'm at home and I'm doing something else at home, and I really don't have to think about it. I don't go to gas stations, and that's time fueling. I spend no time fueling. I just plug it in and go about my day. There are some subsidies that still exist. Depends on which one you buy. And of course, the environmental benefits. There's the cons. I just updated the cons. So this slide deck has been around a while. So I put something in parentheses for each. Higher initial costs. Well, maybe not. So we have to look at which ones. And we're going to talk about cost in a minute. But the cost is quickly catching up, meaning the initial cost may actually be quite the same as a comparable gasoline car. Longer fuel time on trips, but it's getting better. The infrastructure is getting built out. The charging infrastructure pretty rapidly. The model selection used to be limited. It's rapidly expanding. There's been some announcements recently about certain manufacturers that are moving 100% of their fleet to electric vehicles. GM, Volkswagen, I believe Mercedes and BMW and some others have announced really the roadmap of moving 100% electric. So you'll see there's a lot more options out today and more coming. And then, range limitation for intercity travel, and that's kind of going away too. And I'm going to show a diagram of what that looks like. And so some common electric vehicle myths that are out there that people talk about. One is that plug-in electric vehicles can only support short trips, not daily commutes. But in fact, pretty much all the EVs that are for sale today have well over a 200-mile range when you fully plug it in. Some are over 300. The average commute or daily drive is less than 40 miles a day. So you can see that kind of myth is busted. On the bottom left, electric vehicles will make up your energy bill go way up. In fact, the truth is it makes your energy bill go down because you have to include gasoline as part of your energy bill. It's not just your electricity bill. Yes, your electricity bill at home will go up, but you won't buy gasoline anymore. And so the net is you pay less for energy using an electric vehicle. They're way more efficient than a gasoline vehicle. Another myth is that plug-in vehicles aren't clean. They run off of dirty power plants. You can buy clean energy. And in fact, our energy mix in the southeastern Pennsylvania is, it's got a nice mix of nuclear power in there, and there's of course a lot of natural gas, a tiny bit of coal, but it's still cleaner than burning gasoline. Even if you don't buy have solar panels at home or buy clean energy, it's still cleaner than burning gasoline directly. The last myth on this slide: electric vehicles are far more expensive than the average car, and they're very comparable right now. In fact, they're not a lot. There's still incentives that are out there, and the price of the battery has dropped substantially in the last 7 or 8 years, so that they're becoming quite a bit more efficient or affordable today. Just a highlight of the EV performance. It really is a pleasure to drive. You get instant torque, and unless you've driven one and experienced that, it's hard to go back. Once you experience that, I think it's hard to go back to gasoline vehicles, that when you push the acceleration pedal, there's this delay before the vehicle goes in. In an electric car, you just don't get that. It's got very quick acceleration. There are no gears, so there's none of that gear changing. The ride is extraordinarily smooth and quiet. Equal weight distribution is kind of a neat thing too. I do have a vehicle that has the battery pack on the bottom, and it's a 100%. The distribution of the weight to every tire is the same, which makes for a very stable ride on curvy roads, which is kind of nice. And it also comes with a low center of gravity. Electronic controls. I call my car kind of an iPad on wheels, and it really is. And it's got this thing called regenerative braking, which is just another way of turning I guess you're braking the friction of slowing down a car to a stop. It takes that energy and puts it back into the battery, which makes it even more efficient and makes your batteries your brakes last a lot longer. Yeah, they're generally heavier. So that's the performance. This is just to tell you what to look for. As you do look for, if you're looking for a new vehicle, if you want to see how to compare the fuel costs for an electric vehicle versus a gasoline vehicle, on the EPA sticker on the vehicle, which you'll see on every vehicle, you'll see the annual fuel cost. You can see on this example, the annual fuel cost for the electric vehicle on the left is $500 a year, and the gasoline, comparable gasoline car on the right is $2,150 a year. So that's a nice, but make sure that you compare apples to apples when you're looking at that, and this is a good way to do that. So maintenance. I'm going to compare a Leaf and a Camry maintenance and just talk about what to expect from a maintenance perspective. Again, EVs are all a little bit different. Some other ones may have even less maintenance than the Leaf, but yep, they're both going to need tires, oil change. The Leaf will never need an oil change. You'll need to get that with your Camry. The transmission fluid, the Leaf doesn't have that either, so you won't ever have to do that. There is a coolant every 30,000 miles for the Camry, but every 125, they ask that you change the coolant for the Leaf. There are no spark plugs in a Leaf, but you need to replace those in a Camry. The brakes I put for the Leaf half as much, but it may be less than that. I can tell you I have 110,000 miles on my electric car, and I am still on the original set of brake pads that came with it new. The car was bought in 2015. And the last inspection, they said I'm about halfway through. So I think I'm expecting close to 200,000 miles on my brake pads, because I use regenerative braking to slow the vehicle down. I've just kind of changed the way I drive. There's no timing belt in an electric car. There is in a gasoline, and the rest are just kind of there because, yeah, you still need to change the washer fluid, the wiper blades, and the cabin filters, just like any other vehicle. So lots of advantages of less maintenance. In fact, the newer Teslas, my wife has a newer Model 3. They tell her there is no scheduled maintenance. When something looks like it's going to fail or needs to get looked at, the car will tell you when to get it maintenance. An example of that is there is still a 12-volt battery in the vehicles. My car told me the other day, hey, it's time to get your 12-volt battery looked at. It doesn't have much life left. And so I was able to replace it before it failed, which is kind of cool. Okay, charging. There's 3 types of charging, level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 is your standard home outlet. You have that in your house today. So everyone is ready to do level 1 charging at home today. Level 2 is kind of the same as an electric stove. So you would have to run an outlet that basically is a 40 or 50 amp circuit. And then you can charge your vehicle much quicker. At my car, skiing, I don't know, about 30 to 35 miles an hour when it's plugged into our home level 2. So if we drive 50 miles a day, it might take 2 hours to replace that on the level 2. DC fast charge is what you'll see. You'll never do that at home. That's extremely high or high voltage, very fast charging that you'll see on highway rest stops and what have you. And yeah, they vary as far as their range effect. Some of the networks go up to several hundred miles added per hour. Very, very, very fast charging. Where do people charge? When you have an electric car, and you will someday, you're going to primarily plug it in at home. That's where I do 95+% of my charging is at home, because that's where my car spends most of the time sitting. Then if you kind of look up this pyramid, you might do it at work. I used to have a job down in Delaware that had a plug. I plugged in at work every day. It was kind of a nice perk. I didn't have to plug in at home anymore. Public areas or city to city travel are kind of at the top of that. The level 2s and 3s. So primarily you're gonna charge at home. It's the most convenient. So the level 1 charger, like I said, you have today. The level 2, it'll cost you between $500 and $2,000 depending on what appliance and who your contractor is. So if you do it yourself and what have you, I was able to run my own to my house, so it really cost me the cost of the wire. So that's charging. This is a map from a little while ago, but it shows the high power stations are in orange. That's the DC chargers, the fast chargers. The public stations are the green. That's a level 2. So you can see a level 2 and level 3 chargers, and that is the I-95 corridor, which it's hard to get. Yeah, there's plenty of charging if you're going up and down 95. So and then in really most urban centers, there's lots of charging options now. That the infrastructure is really advanced. If you're going to compare 5-year cost, you can do that here. And I just wanted to make a point that in the current Kelley Blue Book shows that the Nissan Leaf has a 5-year cost of about $35,000 compared to a Honda Accord. That's a pretty comparable comparison. The Honda Accord is $38,000. So it's actually, the Leaf is more affordable right out of the box than a comparable gasoline car. The Prius is a little bit higher at 40, and then you get some of the other options. If you wanted to get the Maxima, it's even more. So you can see there's some options. Federal tax credits and rebates exist today. Depends on the model. There is limitations for each of them from the government in terms of, which ones still have credit left after they sell 200,000. It starts to ramp down to zero after that. PA, I also did get a rebate on mine. I just did look at the website. It's not active, but they are going to make it active very shortly. I guess the funding's in place, and it should be funded by, they said spring of 2021. There will be a PA rebate as well. I'm not sure what that will be yet. So that's the presentation I have. I'll pause it there and see if we have any questions from folks on what was presented. I talked pretty fast, and we'll answer everyone's questions now.
Thank you, Noel. We do have a question in from Lucia. Do you get a discount at inspection for your electric car?
Well, I would say discount. You don't have to do emissions, and so the cost of the emissions inspection goes away. You don't have to do it. So I guess the answer would be yes. You do have to get an inspection sticker like anyone else for the safety features of the vehicle, but you do not have to get the emissions, which is I think around $40 or $50 less for inspection.
And I have a question about the different charging stations that you showed different ports.
Yep.
So does your car, depending on what kind of car you have, mean what kind of port? And can you go between different types of ports?
Yeah, that's a great question. There is a standard level 2 and level 3 ports that are out there. So there's a J1772, it's a very technical term, but that's the level 2 standard that all vehicles purchased in the United States will either have with the car, or will be an option to buy with the car to for my car, I have an adapter that I put into my car that connects to the J1772, so I can plug in at any standard level 2 charger. I can plug into, and then the level 3s also has a standard that your vehicle will either have when you buy it, or you will buy an adapter if you want to, that adapts to it. So, yep. So there's industry standards that all the vehicles will have either out of the box or an adapter you can purchase with. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in and elaborate a little bit about charging. So I have a Chevy Bolt, and if you don't drive more than 50, 100 miles a day, you really could charge out of a 110 volt outlet, which is a level 1. Right. And level 2 goes much faster than that. Level 3 or DC fast charging for some cars is an option. So if you are interested in taking your electric car on the road, for Tesla owners like Noel, you don't have to worry because they're all equipped for fast charging. But I think it was a $750 option on my Chevy Bolt, which I felt was an essential for me, planning to take it on the road. We've driven up to Maine, and I've driven up on business trips out to Ohio and Western Pennsylvania. So you really need the fast charge, DC fast charge option for that.
My family recently went camping, and at the campground, they had an electric car charging station.
Awesome. A state campground?
State park, yeah.
Yeah, they are putting them in all the state parks. I also heard something very interesting asking about rebates. So the state rebate program is actually pretty good for electric vehicles. So you can get $750 on a used car, or a state rebate. So they're really trying to make it a little bit more affordable for folks who are income limited. And actually, I believe in May, they're going to announce an even better program, which is going to provide higher rebates based on income. So for those who, can't look at a $35,000, $30,000 sticker price, there's a lot of options. And some of these used electric vehicles are actually very low cost now. I know someone who just recently bought a Chevy Bolt used, so very affordable. I think, it's kind of model specific, so Teslas seem to hold their value. They've got that, that aura. But the Chevys can be had used at a very reasonable price.
Great, thank you, Peter. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I want to thank you all for coming to the series today.